team. Members, we do have 5 items that were publicized for our open session of the meeting. And I would like to get an indication that members do adopt the agenda as presented. If they do, please indicate by a show of your hands, please. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Also, thank you, Ms. Masetti. I also support the adoption of the agenda as presented. Moving on to the next item, which is the declaration of interest. Are there any verbal declarations that members would like to make for this meeting? I don't see any hand. On that note, I would like to request that the members as well as members of management and support staff to complete the forms that have been provided for declaration of interest and submit the same to the secretary for the committee. We'll then move on to the first item for our open session of the meeting, which is under the regulation of the petroleum pipelines. Item 5, Ms. Mtwa, if you can guide us as to who's going to lead us on the item. You can even read the title for the record. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. Good morning, colleagues and the members of the public. Item 5 is a decision and reason for decision on the tariff application by Sasol Oil for its petroleum storage facility located in Sinfuel Road in Secunda, Mpumalanga Province. Mr. Koloi, who is one of our learners, will introduce the matter. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Koloi.
Thank you, EM. Good morning, members and colleagues. The purpose of this submission is to request the REC members to approve the tariff applied for by Sasol Oil Secunda for its petroleum storage facility for the period 1 July 2025 to 30 June 2026 and approve the decision and reasons for decision RFD document attached hereto as Annexure A. Sasol Oil Secunda storage facility consists of 5 storage tanks licensed by NERSA with a combined capacity of 875 cubic meters. Sasol applied for a tariff of 80.26 cents per litre for the 2025-2026 financial year, which it has decreased by 40.91% when compared to the tariff approved in 2023-24 financial year. The reason for the decrease is due to a clawback in favor of customers for the 2022-23 financial year. The adjustment arises from the fact that Sasol oil actual volumes during 2022-23 financial year exceeded the volumes projected in the tariff determination. The comparison of the tariffs calculated by NERSA and Sasol are shown on Table 6, page 11, whereby NERSA has a slight difference of 0.54%. The difference in the tariff applied for by Sasol Oil and that determined by NERSA is due to the difference in REP, WACC, and the treatment of tax expense, which ultimately resulted in AR values being different. The analysis outcome for AR calculation is shown from page 6 to 8 of the REC cover submission. It is therefore recommended that the Regulator Executive Committee REC approves the tariff of 80.26 cents per litre applied for by Sasol Oil for the period 1 July 2025 to 30 June 2026, and also approve the decision and reasons for decision RFD document attached hereto as Annexure A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koloi. Members, the item is before you and we've had the presentation. Are there any questions or issues of clarity that you may have on this submission? If you do have any, please do raise your hand. I'll recognize you. Thank you. I don't see any hand that is up, but from my side, I just needed to get a confirmation that since for the 2024-25 financial year, the tariff that was applied for by the applicant was not approved by the energy regulator. Did we monitor the fact that they were still applying the 2023-24 approved tariff? Just for my clarity, because I did not see this being stated in the submission that we were monitoring the application of the last approved tariff. Yes, Ms. Boko.
Good morning, Chairperson, and thank you for your question. Chair, we do have a monitoring exercise of actually monitoring the application of the tariffs charged. We do know also that this facility is predominantly used for own use, but then we'll embark into that exercise after the lapse of this financial year, which ends on the 30th of June. So we are yet to do those verifications and confirmations. But then in terms of the volume reports that are submitted on a monthly basis, we have confirmed that the tariff charged is actually below what was approved in terms of volumes, but then not for third parties, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thanks so much. I see Ms. Masetti's hand is up. You may come in, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to the team. Just one thing for me for clarification. I just want to check whether the financial year for Sasol Oil is 1st June or 1st July until 30th of June. I see here it is stated as 1st June to 30 June. Is it 1st July until 30th of June? Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Boko, if you can assist us.
Oh, yes, Chair. It is, Ms. Masetti, 1 July to 30 June. There may be a mistake where you're looking at. We'll check the submission and correct it if there is a mistake. Apologies for that.
Yes, it is in all those tables that are there showing 1st June to 30th of June, which I would not understand to be the financial year end of the companies that fall under the Sasol group. And also it would not make sense to have it 1st June until 30 June. So it must be 1st July, then ends on the 30th of June. Then that's the full 12 months. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. I think the team has noted that, Ms. Masetti. I do not see any other hand from the members. I would therefore request that we go to the recommendations, which are on paragraph, just getting there, paragraph 14 on page 13, the green stamp page 13. And the recommendations are that the REC is requested to approve the tariff of 80.26 cents per litre applied for by Sasol Oil for the period 1 July 2025 to 30 June 2026, and to approve the decision and reasons for decision that are attached as Annexure A. By show of hand, members, can I get an indication you support the recommendation? Thank you, Ms. Masetti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I also support. We then move on to the next item, Ms. Mtwa, if you can introduce it and read the title for the records. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. The next three items are for Mr. Sintumule. They are all cost allocation manual submitted in compliance with the requirement of the regulatory reporting manuals. However, we will start with the Q4 cost allocation manual. Thank you, Mr. Sintumule.
Thank you. Good morning, members of management and colleagues. Today I'll be presenting Q4 cost allocation manual in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. The purpose of this submission is to request the Regulatory Executive Committee to approve Q4 CAM submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRMs. RM Volume 1, Section 2.6.2 requires each licensee to submit to the Energy Regulator a CAM for approval as soon as RRM is approved and before the licensee makes its first filing to the ER under the RM. The CAM must document each licensee's cost allocation method, affiliate restriction, and transfer pricing. RM must be reviewed regularly to reflect any changes in the cost relation, cost allocation, and cost drivers. Q4 submitted its CAM on 25 April 2025 in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. The CAM was deemed to have met the criteria as set out by the cost allocation manual evaluation metrics. There are a few silent features which we in terms of the criteria, we have assessed and will share a few with the members. In terms of the cost allocation principles, there was no need for modification. The assessor will find that all was in order. In terms of the CAM approval review and material modification in policy, they were addressed under the section 4 of the CAM documents. And as a result, members, it is recommended that the Regulator Executive Committee approve QCAM submitted in compliance with the regular reporting manuals. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Dr. Sintimule. Members, any questions, issues of clarity or points of enhancements on the submission? If you have any, please do raise your hand. I'll recognize you. Thank you. I see Ms. Massetti's hand is up. You may come in, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I have two questions. One that I would like the team to clarify as to how did we deal with it as in terms of inclusion in the cost that must be recovered and assigned to the facilities or to the operation of the facility is the issue of the overhead capitalization rate. And that seems to be something that, or the cost that that were incurred during the construction work that is in progress. And I would like to believe that there is a specific section in the RRMs that guides us how do we treat such costs when we determine the tariffs. Now, I would like to understand how this so-called overhead capitalization rate has been handled from our side, what guidance did we use, and how did we sort of admit the level of the cost or the rate that relates to this, if I can be clarified on that. Then the second thing that I would like the team to clarify is the apportionment of indirect costs for the operator. So the indirect cost, what portion of it are we allowing, and sort of the nature of those costs that we allow, and how much is the percentage that we are allowing? Are we allowing, them all, like, the costs that are indirect? And, what are the sort of, what is the criteria that we're using there when it comes to indirect cost, so that we know exactly how much of the indirect cost must we allow and admit for recovery? Those are the two questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Massetti. Team PPR, if you can respond, Dr. Sintimule. I hope you heard the questions. If not, let me know if you want me to clarify them for you or repeat them for you. Over to you.
Yeah, let me respond in this order. Chairperson, I will start with the issue of apportionment and in terms of how many percentage in terms of the cost of the indirect cost. If you can indicate, you can see on the, when you look at the RRM volume 1, it doesn't specifically indicate in terms of percentage of indirect cost. If you can look at the indirect cost of all this, let's say, in particular, you see them, they are more like your finance, you're talking about the HR, the admin, corporate service there. Then you will go to your cost allocator there, it does indicate to say costs are divided equally among all parties involved. But in terms of the threshold, if I can come to the Madam Massetti, it's not in the RRM stipulated to say what percentage or when we're looking between the regulated and non-regulated. So that is not stipulated, because whatever we undertake within the CAM or RRM self, what guides us, it becoming an RRM volume 1, which we just reviewed recently. But that is not really in terms of the cost, but the cost which are indicated are those which are mentioned, among others, to save the time. But when I look at the cost during contracts in terms of the overhead capital cost rate. So some of things I think, if I can just respond, Madam Massetti, you can find that this you'll find that it's more related to be treated during the tariff the tariff period rather than here on the CAM part of things. Hence, I will propose that the colleague from tariff on that as to during the tariff period, how do they handle that? I will appreciate that. And over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Follow up, Ms. Maseti. You can mute yourself in that so that we don't get interruptions. Ms. Maseti has got a follow up. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, Mike, can we be clarified straight to the point to the question that I'm asking, even on the first issue? Whether, obviously, the RRMs are not going to specify each and every instance or circumstances. So what is important when the team considers the RRMs, because it is supposed to guide us, they must be able to indicate the relevant section in the RRMs, whether that section is a catch-all and does not assist much. They must make that opinion to say that we consulted with the relevant section of the RRMs. When it comes to indirect cost, this is what it says, without generalizing. Then, in the circumstances, how did we now verify the exact indirect cost that the applicant that brought the CAM, the cost allocation manual, how the applicant has classified what they call indirect cost? Then we do our scrutiny to say, must we allow, if they ask for 100% of the indirect cost, for instance, I'm giving an example, then from our side, we'll see, because we know the business, at least what we need to regulate, so that we don't allow this cost to be passed through to the tariffs. And therefore, the people that are going to be, utilizing the facilities as a third party, or the consumers that must pay the tariffs. It is us that must protect them. We must scrutinize it. So if it is indirect cost, how do they occur in these circumstances so that we don't have to admit them into the CAM? Because this is an opportunity for us. So the tariff people will come later, but the people that deal with the cost allocation manual are the ones that must prevent costs that are not supposed to be included. If they're inaccurate, or if they are costs that are duplicated or overstated, the people that are scrutinizing the cost allocation manual, and they're not able to tell what are the drivers of those, and they're not able to tell whether it will be fair to admit this cost here, are the ones that must do that. Now, I am not getting the explanation as to say, the ones that are classified as indirect costs, are they indirect costs that have some value or contribute to the regulated service? That's the question. First question that they should ask themselves. And therefore, do we admit 100% of them? Or maybe on this aspect, we only admit so much. They are not assisting us. So if we approve today, it means we would not have this opportunity. Maybe we'll have this opportunity after 3 years. Whilst then people for the tariffs are supposed to take what already is approved in the RRMs. So this is the first opportunity that we have. So hence I'm asking the questions that I'm asking. So I would want us to at least get the direct responses in a proper way, like I've guided, that this is what you start, then give us the comfort that indeed you applied yourself properly here by the time you bring this matter to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maseti. Mr. Mkiza.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think when to remedy this matter, if you look at page 7 of 7, I think in terms of the acceptance criteria, maybe if there can be a reference to the specific section of the RRMs that deals with that specific aspect, like in terms of overhead cost, be able to see what is the allocation criteria that then is used in terms of allotting those costs. When it comes to the indirect cost, I think if you look at on page 31 of 38, where Q-Fuel indicates the indirect cost, sorry. I think it's going to be important then to say that not just to talk of fair and aligned to principles of equity, transparent, and regulatory compliance. I think just to at least be to outline that and then zoom into the principles that they then apply in terms of the cost allocation from their side, just to augment that going forward, to say that there should be some level of specification, noting that at this high level, not everything would be specified per se, but just the principles of allocation of these indirect costs. The applicants will then have to indicate that. I would just put that forward as a need for enhancement going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkiza, for that enhancement. Mr. Sintimule, do you want to respond? But I think Mr. Mkiza has assisted.
He was going to respond to capitalization, overhead capitalization rate, which he couldn't get to. But that one he needs to address because there's a possibility of duplication, particularly by affiliated companies. And you can see that on items 6 and 8, Chairperson. So I think he can still be required to respond to that issue of the overhead capitalization rate. Thanks.
Okay, you can go ahead because the indirect cost one, Mr. Mkiza has assisted with the enhancements. Mr. Sintimule, the overhead capitalization rate, do you want to come in on that? You are muted, Mr. Sintimule. Maybe you're speaking
Sorry, Chairperson. Not to go back and forth, but I wanted to reflect to say maybe on which part we want to course on the allocation, because I did indicate it maybe without maybe being vague on the response, to say, if you remember, when to the RRM, before the licensee submit the RRM, they will ought to have a tariff, and this RRM, it's in response now into the tariff submitted by a licensee previously. So, I'm saying, I say in terms of the point which Madam Masite raised, is an issue to say, in future, please try to go and drill deeper so that the information submitted by the licensee is accurate. So to me, I've taken more as a guidance on that point. Thank you.
So basically you are saying you cannot respond to that issue she raised because she just wanted to know how did we take into account the overhead capitalization rate in this particular process. So if I get your response is that you can't clarify this at this point in time, but you'll take it as an enhancement. Let me take Ms. Maseti's hand because that's what you said. Am I correct? That the symptom.
Yes, that's what I wish just to save the time of the members to respond it separately to in terms of enhancement.
Okay, Ms. Maseti.
If it can be allowed, thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, it is incorrect. It cannot start from the tariff. The tariff must allow costs that have already been accurately identified. And those costs, once you identify their relevance to the business and to the regulated service, then you must assign those costs appropriately. You must identify what are the drivers of those costs. That's the exercise that is before us. The tariffs come after this cost. By the time you get to the stage of the tariffs, you would have clarified what are these costs that must make up what needs to be recovered from the tariff. On the tariff, you don't recover something that is not in the cost allocation manual. Then you settle the matter there, all of the cost, so that on the tariffs, if they try now to change and increase the costs that were previously approved, then you start questioning. The baseline starts here. Then that's when during that cost during the RRMs, you check the over recovery or under recovery. But the basis is what is before us today. It is completely wrong to say you start with what has been charged. No. What has been charged must be influenced by what costs are there. It is so improper. It cannot work like that. So the RRMs then, that's why we've got audit in the RRMs. That's why we must check what we have agreed on. Cost allocation manual is part of those regulatory instruments that are called for in the RRMs. It is improper. So if you cannot explain the risk that I am pointing out, the risk on the overheads, that now we're going to take overheads of some affiliated entities, and then we bring them here, and then we also take for the relevant applicant. That will be a problem of double dipping. And I'm raising that as a risk. Now, a person who scrutinizes the cost allocation manual must then be able to say, no, member, or yes, member, I see the risk that you have pointed out. We will look into this risk, or we have scrutinized it, and then this is how we're going to deal with it. That's the kind of a response, nothing else, Chairperson, because I'm pointing an issue of the risk. And I'm saying on the table, it is even addressed in two areas, the one on the affiliation of other members and the other for the applicant. And I'm asking, how did you deal with it here? The issue of the overhead. So if they can't deal with it, then it's a problem. It's a cost that is assigned, but that cost might not be the cost that it must be allowed. How does it arise? It's wrong.
Okay, that's noted. Mr. Mkiza, you may come in.
Before I come in, it seems like Mr. Mashood wants to respond. Let me give him an opportunity and then I can comment after him. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. So if we can go to number 8, under overheads and capital rate, members, you'll be able to see that the Q4 had no overhead capital rate for construction work in progress at the time of developing the CAM. Hence, such response maybe to the members to say, I should have scrutinized them deeper, but the licensee here under the 8.1, under the over capitalization of rate, does indicate say such cost doesn't exist currently now during the submission of this CAM. Hence, I was responding in this manner. As I said, even in the future, we'll be able to even interrogate further. But in the current licensee, even in the two licensee I'm going to present next now, or both of them under the overhead capital costs, they have no overhead capital rate for construction work in progress in that regards. And over to you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mkiza.
Thank you, ma'am. I think if you look at 8.1 in terms of the no ever overhead cost capitalization rate, particularly for this one, so in other words, there is no quip there. It then kind of gives the initiator and some leeway in terms of not being very specific on this aspect as such. But I remain of the view that we need to set just the principles, because at this level, also don't want to unnecessarily pin yourself down, but you want to be able to set parameters within which there could be the issues of overhead capitalization rate will need to be considered. In fact, in terms of all the items that are being considered, even when it comes to the allocation of overheads. For example, the specification that those overheads, they would be volume-based. But again, there should be further reference. I think the referencing of the manuals when looking at this is, for me, it's critical. going back again to the issue of our own criteria being enhanced, maybe going forward, not the criteria as such. I'm saying our own criteria as included in the submission being enhanced to reflect what is in the cost allocation manual. That will assist. This might not be a big problem for this particular licensee, but it's something that must be attended to for all licensees in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkiza, for that. Ms. Masetti, are you covered in terms of the response? Because it would seem that the issues that you have raised are not adequately addressed in the submission, and therefore then there is a guidance that in future we would enhance the submissions by citing the relevant sections in the RRM dealing with the issues that have been raised, which is the
Okay.
Can someone switch off the colleagues? I think that is Can you assist me, Gerald, or I don't know who's in IT to mute yourselves, please, colleagues. Can we just try and mute ourselves so that we don't disrupt the proceedings of the meeting? Mr. Mkiza, I see your hand is up. I don't know whether it's a lingering hand or you wanted to add or assist.
No, I think because we're at REC, I think that's very important for RRM specialists to work hand in glove with the tariff departments, so that there's this alignment of how things are being looked at. There's just a streamlined process, looking at the CAM, looking at the setting of tariffs or approval of tariffs. For me, that is very important. Hence, I think that one would expect in this platform, the HOD, the EM, as well as the specialist working in tandem in responding and in understanding what is required. I just want to stress that aspect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. As I was trying to sum up the input that members have raised in terms of enhancing the submission or similar such submission in the future, is that we try as much as we can to, or rather we should, cite the sections in the RRMs when we do the analysis, and also when we indicate whether the criteria required is acceptable or not, to really minimize the time that we spend on these submission, and also to try and be specific on the principles that needs to be followed on the indirect costs, and that RAR as the lead a team in dealing with RRMs to work closely with the regulatory division when the analysis of CAMs and as well as tariffs are done, to ensure that we are aligned with the provisions of RRM provisions. On that note, members, with those enhancements, may I then request that we go to the recommendations, which are on page 4. And the recommendations are that the REC approves the Q4's CAM submitted in compliance with the RRM manuals, and also noting those points of enhancements that members have raised to say that they must be covered in future submissions. On that note, members, can I, by show of hand, get an indication that you support the approval of Q4 Depot's CAM submission? I do support. I don't see any hand from members. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Ms. Masetti?
Chairperson, I would want to dissent because I have raised a substantive concern, and it is just not, I don't think that it is proper when we don't come up with a solution that can address the concern that has been raised. So I just feel that the input has not been taken into account. It would have been a different thing when the input is properly considered. And then we can indicate, because the RRMs allows that a review of can be done. So in respect of the issue of indirect costs, for instance, which is not properly addressed even in the sections, if we say that should those costs, because we don't know the cost drivers, then once those matters come before us through the tariffs, that the RRM be brought to the regulator so we can approve subject to those issues being revisited when the implementation of the RRMs, sort of the CAM, in the form of tariffs. So it is on that basis, Chairperson, that I will then dissent, because I feel that the concern is not raised and not properly considered specifically. I do support the other things that, well, we can do this, and Mr. Mkhize's points, but they are not addressing what do we do then with the concerns raised. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Mkhize, would you have an objection if you add that particular second recommendation to say that we do approve Q4's CAM is submitted in compliance with RRMs, which will be reviewed before the tariff application is considered? Will you be agreeable to that addition?
My understanding is that when the consideration of the tariff application will also talk to the review, not to review prior, but to talk to the review when it is being considered. So that is my understanding of it, and therefore I would not be against that. I think I'm amenable to that. I don't think that. I think it will only enhance. Thank you.
Okay, all right. On that note, then, Ms. Masetti, the recommendations for the record, I'll read it again to which I believe covers your concern, which is to recommend that the REC approves the Q4 depot CAM submitted in compliance with RRM, subject to the review being done prior to the actual tariff application. Will that be fine?
It's during the they can be done at the same prior. Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
During the tariff application, during the consideration of the tariff application. Thank you for that. By show of hand, members, can we approve and move on to the next one? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I do support. Thank you, Ms. Masetti. We then move on to the next item, which is item 7, and it's the Porter Plant Pty Limited, trading as Porter Verspreiders, cost allocation submitted in compliance with the requirements of the regulatory reporting manuals, which is the RRMs. And that is to take the points that the members have raised in the previous submission, which is item 6, and ensure that you do address them in your presentation. If not, indicate as to how they should be considered. And if they affect the recommendations, please proceed and propose a recommendation that is aligned with that particular input made in the previous submission. Over to you, Dr. Sintomo.
No. Thank you very much, Chairperson. And also the inputs have been noted, and also maybe if I can indicate that this submission are more similar to what Madam Masetti indicated. So all of this submission, they are under the same vein, which when I'm talking to it, then somewhere I will try to unpack it. So here, members of the voting system time, the purpose of this submission is to request the Regulatory Executive Committee to approve a Porter and CAM submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRMs. Porter submitted its CAM on 26 April in compliance with the RRM. The CAM was deemed to have met the criteria set out by cost allocation and evaluation metrics. And in terms of the silent future of Porter, vs the CAM criteria. Introduction, no need for modification purpose for the development of the CAM has been clearly discussed in the introduction section of the CAM document. Related party affiliates transaction. Porter does not have any related party affiliates transaction for its regulated activity. Porter has list its SPM and CPM loading facility to PTOSA and included all expenditure allocation. In terms of overhead, capital rate for construction work in progress, Porter provided under Section 8 of the CAM document that there are no overhead costs allocated to the regulated facilities as the facilities are leased out to PTOSA. It is recommended that the Regulatory Executive Committee approved by Ponta Philippine CAM submitted in compliance with the regulatory reporting manual. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Members, any questions, issues of clarity? That there's I don't see a hand from members, but I did say just emphasize the issues that were raised by members and to say that they are addressed or there would be a need for us to have an enhancement in relation to those areas. And I may have missed that in your presentation. But I see Ms. Massetti's hand is up. Let me allow her to come in, and then you can come in after her and respond. Ms. Massetti.
Thank you, Chairperson. You've addressed the part where he should have anticipated and also include what we said in the previous one. But for purposes of enhancement, Chairperson, and also to protect our decision, and I think it also applies in the other submission, on those areas, for instance, where we talk about the indirect costs, in our comments in accepting, we say it is well addressed. No need for additional information in our comments. And it's also what we stated in the previous submission. So I would like us to change that. It starts from page 8 of the current submission. So if we can kindly look at the way that we articulated NERSA's stance with each of these. So we can say well addressed, no need for additional information yet. Our decision is subject to. So that kind of language, maybe we may change to say that it is considered reasonable for now. However, during the implementation through the tariffs, this may need to be revisited. So if we can put that proviso in all of these areas, Chairperson. And also, I just want to request the team to check thoroughly in terms of what they put before us. I mean, the issues such as a purchase of price. So I don't know if there is anything that is called purchase of price. I'm sure they are trying to refer to purchase price, so that when there is a sale price, there was a purchase price. So the purchase price must be indicated as such, as a purchase price, not purchase of price from affiliates. And then we have the sale price to affiliates. So all of those things must be properly addressed and checked thoroughly in the submission, because they may mean something that is actually not there and is meaningless. So if we can kindly check that, and also to protect the decision of the energy regulator. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Massetti. Any input in that is Ntimole?
Good morning, Chairperson. I have noted Madam Massetti enhancement. Thank you.
Okay. I think please do note the request to enhance Annex A, particularly the last column, to say that the assessment is deemed adequate or it's deemed to be reasonable. This will cover us should there be any issue that may be picked up in the application process. And then I think the other...
To be reasonable, Chairperson, for for purposes of principles. Let's put it properly, because we can't say it's adequate or and then we say the decision subject.
Oh, I said deemed adequate.
Okay.
Deemed, yeah, but we'll use the word reasonable as you're proposing. The two. Yeah. Okay, and again to say that it is the recommendation on paragraph 14. Sorry, members, just to move in there, is that the REC approves the Porta Verspieders CAM submitted in compliance with the RRMs, and that it's subject to be reviewed when considering the application from the licensee. On that note, members, with the other enhancements given on column A, can I get an indication that you do accept or approve the recommendations with that addition? Thank you, Ms. Maseti. I do. Mr. Mkiza, thank you. We move on to the next one, item 8, which is also a submission on CAM by Auto Commodities Pty Ltd. Submitted in compliance with the regulator reporting manuals. Over to you, Dr. Sintumuli.
Thank you, Chairperson. The purpose of this submission is to request the Regulatory Executive Committee to approve Auto Commodities CAM submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. Auto Commodities submitted its CAM on 25 April 2025 in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. The CAM was deemed to have met the criteria as set out by the cost allocation manual evaluation metrics. Key features, which we look at in truth view, related party affiliate transaction, the process to be followed by Auto Commodities for overhead capital retained for construction work, as clearly discussed in section 6 of the CAM document. Overhead capitalization rate for construction work in progress, the process to be followed by Auto Commodities for overhead and capital cost work in progress has been clarified as in scale 8, which indicates that they don't have such cost before they submit this CAM to the energy regulator. As a result, and also noted all the previous inputs and enhancements from the members, it is recommended that the Regulatory Executive Committee approve Auto Commodities CAM submitted in compliance with the regulatory reporting. Over to you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sintumula. I thought we had given you guidance to say some of the points raised in the first submission. We should cover them in a verbal presentation. But I don't know, I seem to be not hearing you covering that. But let's also note that particular input, as we have said, as a committee, it does apply to all of the CAM application that are before us today. On that note, let me allow members to raise any questions, issues of clarity, or points of enhancements that they may have on this particular submission. Members, over to you. I don't see any hand, but I think the important thing is to address those issues that were raised by members in the first submission, and also the annexure as well, annexure A. It just also seems to be having the wording well addressed, no need for further information. If we can have the annexures amended with the wording that was proposed to say that there is a reasonableness in what has been assessed in the submission made by the licensee. If we can do that, and also in terms of the recommendations, we have a subjective approval that says that the CAM will be reviewed when considering the application. On that note, members, the recommendations are on the green stamped page 4. Under paragraph 14, it is recommended that the REC approves Auto Commodities CAM submitted in compliance with the regulatory reporting manual, subject to review when considering the tariff application, and also enhancements that needs to be done in terms of annexure A, in terms of the wording used. By show of hands, thanks, Ms. Maseti, thanks, Mr. Mkize, and I also support We will then move on to items that, or rather one item that we have for the open session, which is on the electricity regulation. And that item is item number 9. And it's on the quarterly report on registered generation facilities approved in the fourth quarter of 2024-25. And it is here for noting. Babu Shozi, or you can assist in directing or assisting the meeting on that item, or direct us as to who can lead it.
Good morning, Chair. The report should be presented by Mr. Sanele Zulu under the leadership of Mr. Nkiza Jr.
Okay, thank you very much. Over to you, Sanele.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning to you, Chair, members, NESA management, colleagues, and members of the public. So, Chairperson, the purpose of this submission is to request the Regulator Executive Committee to note the quarterly report on registered generation facilities in the fourth quarter of the 24-25 financial year in terms of the standing instruction number 9 of the Electricity Subcommittee Delegation Matrix. So, Chairperson, since the inception of a registration regime, NESA has registered 1,171 generation facilities with a total capacity of 12,737 megawatts. So, Chairperson, during the fourth quarter of the 24-25 financial year, NESA registered 160 generation facilities with a total capacity of 2,187 megawatts and an investment value of 41.3494 billion. And Chair, it is noted that during the fourth quarter of 24-25, NESA processed the applications within an average of 12 working days. So with that, Chairperson, it is recommended that the Regulator Executive Committee note the quarterly report on registered generation facilities approved in the fourth quarter of 24-25 financial year in terms of the standing instruction number 9 of the Electricity Subcommittee Delegation Matrix. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Bob Zulu. Members, any questions or issues of clarity or point of enhancements? I think it's a great improvement that we are able to process these registration within 12 working days. Well done, Team ELR. I see Mr. Nkiru's hand is up. You may come in, Bob.
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks, Michael, for the presentation. I think from my side, is to also commend the team for the speedy processing. And I think that this is also important for us when we're communicating the outcomes of this meeting, that we also highlight this aspect going forward, and that we are up to it in terms of handling these changes in space. Just on paragraph 4.4, because it says of the unique feature of the notice is the removal of the registration cap of 100 megawatt. Not so sure about this one. If you can maybe rephrase it, because it then gives if you read the sentence, it gives an impression that it can go up to 1,000 or million megawatt. The space for, I think that sentence needs to be raised. And then on table 2, excuse me, for 2018, I don't know why there's a dash there. There's no indication of the amount. If you can just help with that, because I was hoping that one was going to see the amount there, or at least get an amount being qualified. And then you can put an asterisk to it, and underneath the table, you indicate what the challenges could be in getting to the exact figure, which will then also help in terms of putting a total figure associated therewith. Yeah, otherwise, I'm happy, Chairperson. Just that clarification. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mkize. For me, I think I had 1 point for enhancements, I think under paragraph 4.6 on page 3. When we say since inception, maybe let's just also mention the year, which is 2018, if I'm correct, so that a reader who wants to get more information on this, get a picture as to when we started with the registration process. If we can add that, paragraph 4.6 on page 3. Over to you, Babu Zulu. Any?
Maybe, Chairperson, maybe in line with what you have said, was I also saying, but then thought maybe to just let it go. Under 6.5, when you talk of new generation facilities, I think these new ones, if just also to assist with the reader, if they are pertaining to quarter 4, you just indicate it as such as the new ones, but just also include the time frame for ease of understanding by the reader. Thank you.
Exactly. Thanks, Chairperson. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mkize. I'm saying Chair. Mr. Zulu, you may come in.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much, Mr. Mkize. We have noted the enhancements, and we will incorporate them as such. Maybe, Chair, through you, can I please request Mr. Matikwane to assist with the question on 4.6 as it was asked by Mr. Mkize? Through you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matikwane, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, members and staff and management. To the question of why there is no value or amount in the investment of 2018, I think we were still starting at that time, so maybe collection of such information really we were not sure on how to do it, so there was no maybe a way we could collect the investment value at that time when we were starting with the registration. Then in terms of maybe the threshold, yes, Mr. Mkize, it's true, we can register even 1,000, or there is no limit anymore in terms of the upper limit, in terms of the capacity that is qualified for registration. We can go up until infinity, if I can say so, since there is no limit in the registration notice that was issued, the latest notice. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, Mr. Matikwane, just to follow up in terms of that question by Mr. Mkize on 4.6, is it still now in 2025 not possible to quantify the investment cost for those facilities that we registered in 2018? I think it may be possible, probably just to enhance the report as requested. If you can just go and check.
Chairperson, I approve. I don't know what's going on here.
Oh, we're not yet at approval. We were just taking the
I'm
responses.
struggling. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Mr. Matikwane, just keep that in mind. You'll come in. Let me just take Mr. Mkize first. He's got a follow-up. Mr. Mkize?
Yes, thanks. I also follow up on the same issue, Chairperson. I think that we need to have some kind of a figure there. I think there is work that can be done to try to verify that and have some kind of an indication. We qualify the figure. So it's going to be a qualified figure that we put there. So you can, when we talk, we can talk with some level of authority in terms of the investments that have gone into this kind of operation. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a study, you can just correct me, in terms of the implications of that notice. So sure if that has been shared widely. So if you can just, let's look at that on the side, the implications. I don't want to depend on my recollection. Maybe something that I'll have to follow up with you, Mr. Zulu, or offline to be able to get that kind of study on the implications and how this can be done in a manner that is also, I would say, what do they call orderly development in terms of the objects of the Act. Yeah, thank you. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkiza, for that input. Ms. Massetti, your hand is up. Is it for voting?
No, Chairperson.
Yes, you may come in then.
Thank you very much. Chairperson, I do agree in terms of continuous improvements. And I think this one is a quarterly one. So the scope and the nature of the decisions sought for today is that of the quarter of what has been brought before us and how did we process it. Yes, I do agree that maybe at a cumulative level, we may need to, just for the benefit of the members and also showing the effort in terms of the interventions of the regulator, we may have to have some annexure on the side, just showing cumulatively, the registrations from the time that we started, and in terms of the contribution of the megawatts, in terms of the investment, and also the status of the commissioning of those the plans for generation. I think those for me are the three critical things, and the division will look into that and have it as an annexure whenever we bring these matters on a quarterly basis, just so that we can be able to show the impact. But also in terms of the timelines, I think it is also appreciated to then show that there is improvement on average in terms of the turnaround times, which is now sitting at 12 days. So that is something that is also quite important. And I think that it is important that we also, from our communication viewpoint, do communicate out there that we are still committed in making sure that we improve the turnaround times. We are sitting at 12 days. And this is how much we have registered, and with the contribution of X amounts in terms of what they are bringing on the energy side of things. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Massetti. And I think from communications, because this is the fourth quarter of 2024-25, meaning it's all the last quarter of our financial year, we can just have an annualized media statement on this particular regulatory activity in terms of what we have done for 2024-25. With those inputs, colleagues, in terms of having annexures that are enhancing the report, and also making sure that it is done in a cumulative manner, that will be appreciated. And as well as the enhancements that have been highlighted in terms of some of the investment costs, especially for 2018, to be included. If the team can try and get information to complete that particular table. On that note, members, we are requested to note the quarterly report on registered generation facilities that were approved in the fourth quarter of the 2025 financial year in terms of the standing instruction number 9 of the electricity subcommittee delegation matrix. And with those enhancements that have been provided as guidance to the team, if they can be incorporated in future quarterly reports. On that note, members, can I get an indication you support the noting of the report? Thank you, Ms. Massetti. Mr. Mkiza, I also support. We have come to the end of the open session of our meeting number 400 held today. I would like to thank the regulatory, or rather the REC members of management, and all those that have joined us for this meeting on different platforms. And on that note, the meeting for the open session